Today marks 15 years since the United States invasion of Iraq. To date, none of the officials responsible for manipulating intelligence reports have been prosecuted. For more on this, we go to former Congressman Ron Paul from Texas and chairman of the Institute for Peace and Prosperity. Mr. Paul, great to have you with us tonight. I appreciate your time. You were one of the very few back 15 years ago and leading up to the invasion that pretty much predicted what has unfolded since. First of all, the finances were never right and never have been, but it's still a bad mark on the United States when it comes to the intelligence community. How hard, in your opinion, has it been for the United States to recover from what happened 15 years ago?
Well, they can't recover unless we decide we should change our foreign policy, because we continue to do the same thing over and over again. I mean, most of this was predictable. Matter of fact, the real early declaration was in 1998 with the Liberation Act, and they used that as a justification for the use of military force in 2002. So now, as long as we continue to do this, we're going to see bad results, and the bad results are there, and it goes on and on. You actually can trace back our mistakes all the way back to the 1990, with the Persian Gulf War getting involved, and the 10 years of bombing going on then. So it's on and on. But the actual invasion, of course, that only lasted a year because mission accomplished in a month or so, was declared. And such a ridiculous attitude that everything was solved. And I think the big issue is the foreign policy of our intervention, getting involved. And my speech that I gave back at that time was, it's the way we're going to war that is the problem. We're giving the president authority to go to war if he wants to. We didn't say he could or couldn't go, but we were saying, it's up to you, Mr. President, and that is exactly opposite of what the founders intended. They said the people should have a voice through their members of Congress, and the president was not to be a king. But we turned it over at that time, and it was this authority that is the real issue, and nobody is considering changes this. And whether it's Obama in office or the Bushes in office, it's always the same thing.
Well, the bottom line here is that this was a real turning point for America in the way we engage in confrontation. What has to change here? How's this going to be reversed?
Well, like I say, I think you can't reverse it. It's not a tactical reversal. We should do such and such this way and not go in here or use more air power. We just need to be out of there. We have no more justification for having been in Iraq than we have for being in Syria right now. And yet the American people were bamboozled into it by the propaganda, because they still think it had something to do with 9/11. And it absolutely did not. They did not have weapons of mass destruction. The American people, though, and maybe this is the answer to your question, are waking up, because I think 60–70% of the American people now aren't very trustworthy of our government, and they don't deserve it because they have lied to us too often. And when they talk about our enemies, I worry more about NSA and the TSA and all the invasions of my property and my liberties more than the Iraqis. The Iraqis were never a threat. I'm not worrying about the Syrians coming to get me. I worry about the intrusion of our liberties here at home, and all Americans should. And the people are waking up. There's more Americans now who are concerned about this. And I think the majority of the Americans think the war was ridiculous. I think the depth to which George W. Bush got to in 2008 and the political cost was pretty evident. The American people weren't very supportive of that policy.
And finally, in all of this, do you feel like we've made improvements in the handling of intelligence since that horrific mistake? Absolutely not. I mean, it keeps getting worse.
The people who are guilty get off. Even now, the person that revealed that we were in the business of torture, went to prison.
Yeah.
But the people who did the torturing never went to prison. That's a crime in itself. No, we have not. And in this whole thing of surveillance of the American people, that it has to end. The American people are getting sick and tired of it.
All right. Ron Paul, former Congressman and the chairman of the Institute for Peace and Prosperity. Great to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ed.